Welcome.
I don't feel like you let that properly play out.
I was too busy concerned with whatever you were doing over there. You had a tissue in your hand. You were like looking the other way. I didn't know what was going on. So, sorry. Hi, everybody. Welcome to King Pollys World. You guessed it. King Pollys Husband is back. He has a lot of explaining to do for being absent last time. This is episode 3. Can you believe it? We've made it. We're officially into triple digits. That's how it works, right? Number 3. I love you. Thank you for being here today.
Thanks for having me.
It's my pleasure, truly, to have you on the couch.
Thank you.
I know sometimes my words don't always align with how I feel. And I can be harsh.
As can we all.
And in coming to do a podcast, energy is charged. Oftentimes, we're both in a new element. And I realize for me, I get really serious about what's going on when it doesn't actually have to be that serious. So this time, I finally feel like, oh, okay, it's not that serious.
Yeah, I hear that. I definitely get flustered. And I think I've realized this too. I get triggered when I'm in a new space or a new situation, something unfamiliar.
Right. So why weren't you here last week?
Probably because of how you spoke to me. Something you said, your attitude, your words. I don't know. Why wasn't I here last week?
Yeah, pretty much.
We start out as friends, but by the time...
I could blame it on your sensitivity, but I'm equally sensitive. You honor your sensitivity. I try, and I'm learning how to honor it. Because it's real. We're sensitive beings, and the world was not set up for sensitive beings. And it feels like we're all coming out of this cocoon into this new world, realizing, wow, none of these systems actually work for me. None of this makes sense. I'm a sensitive human. Where's my place in the world now?
Is that where you're coming from?
Mm-hmm.
I think for me, like I've been like that. I've like had thoughts and felt like that for a very long time. It's definitely interesting right now, just everything that's happening. And it definitely is weird just coming out of what feels like just 2-year just hibernation.
Mm-hmm.
Like just to get in back in the rhythm and swing of things. It's like you said the other day, it's like you feel like you have to take a nap after every other project.
100. And I can't tell if that's just because I'm 30, in my mid-30s now. But I just think it's how it is. Like, it's almost like we're waking up from a car crash or something. And we're like having to redefine who we are and what life is. Actually, no, we're not redefining it. Life is doing it. And we're just having to receive what life actually is now.
I'd go with that. I feel like just over the last couple of weeks, like, I don't know, I feel like I've kind of just started to realize, like, what it is that I've been going through the last year and a half, and kind of just stopped beating myself up about it and just kind of accepting of it and then grateful for it, because it's been tough to shift out of what once was the norm.
The word that comes up for me is rest.
And that is, I think it's taken me a year and a half to learn how to rest. It's taken me a year and a half of resting to learn how to rest.
Mm-hmm. It was a foreign thing to me for a long time. And then
Still is.
It's become literally, like, I see it as just this super healing force field. Like, the only way through is to literally have to stop and pause and rest and just be with yourself. Not beat yourself up, not judge yourself or think it should be a different way, but having to just accept, like, oh, I'm at the end. Like, all I can do is just lay here right now. I'm recharging from not only decades of manual labor and forced fluorescent lit schooling, but also like generations of hardship for humanity that we're waking up to.
Yeah, very much so. Very much so.
That's a nice soft opening.
Sure.
I want to do my shout out of the week early in this episode.
Let's get it done.
Because I'm wearing the shirt. It's an exciting day. Can you see it? Bunker Project. The Bunker Project, we met the really, really nice gentleman that founded it.
Yeah.
At the Fall Family Festival. And it's crazy because our son is now in the Navy.
Going to be. He's enlisted. He's been sworn in. He gave his, like, I don't know what he's sworn in, and then he has supposed to be shipping out between January and April.
So I never thought in a million years in some form there would be a level of like him being a veteran. And so it even hits closer to home too when we found out about this project, but it helps when the soldiers come home and just getting them reacclimated back into society with housing and community and just getting on your feet.
I think even not even when they come back home, but just even when they get done with their term, like whatever their term is that they serve.
I guess that's what I mean.
Right. I just want to give a little more clarity. Like they don't have to be
at the end of
their term, whatever.
I almost called it a sentence. But at the end of
their term that they're committed to, just that coming out of, that whatever that adjustment is that me and you have no experience on.
None. And my heart goes out to everybody.
Yeah, always. Yeah.
Always.
Every soul, every time there's someone's
on
putting their life on the line.
Just such a unique journey, and it truly is. And for me, coming from this place of waiting tables for a lot of years of my life, there was always this element whenever I waited on servicemen or women, this level of just like, oh.
Mm-hmm.
And I know it's ingrained, right? The kindness, the politeness, but it's this other level. Like I just always wanted to give so much, and I didn't know what I could give other than thank you.
I hear that. Anytime you're face to face with someone and you can feel, and I think what you were just sharing was that element of awareness when you feel like someone's actually risking their life for your life. And like, how do you thank someone, I think that comes up with like police officers, firemen a lot, and servicemen, doctors. I mean, everybody that's, at some level, it feels like, just being human at some level, we're all here to be of service and to help each other survive.
And we're all trying to find our place. Like now what am I here to serve? Who am I serving? What is this, right? And finding our place in the collective. And I love that because each of us truly has something to give. Every single human being.
Yes.
A beautiful, beautiful gift within them from the beginning. So that's my shout out. Bunker Project. Follow them. Support them. We're so kind. And it's a cool local organization.
Yes. Yeah, he was very kind, very generous. He's got a lot of cool little things that he's doing. Not only just an asset for the community, for sure.
Do you have a shout out of the week?
Man, I was not prepared for this. I'm still getting used to this. Maybe at the end. Maybe I'll do something at the end. Maybe someone will come to me. I'm definitely flustered with the shout out right now.
Okay. I hear you. It's a flustering thing. to come up with on the spot. If I were you, I'll tell you what my shout out of the week would be if I were you. Ready?
Yeah.
That trail you just hiked would be my shout out. What's it called?
Oh man, I'd have to just look just to make sure. I think Gold Strike.
Yeah, that's what you called it.
Gold Strike. It's on the south end of the dam into the Colorado River. You hike down an hour and a half hike in the hot springs. Gold Strike Hot Springs is what I think it's called. Yeah, that was an amazing day yesterday. Hiking down to the hot springs with my friend, and then going into the cold Colorado River, jumping into kind of the warm spring, and then warming up out of that in the cold yesterday.
And
hiking 2 hours uphill out back to the car.
And you said that you didn't think I could do it.
No, there was a couple spots where you have like ropes and stuff like that to go down, different elevation spots where you can't really get down safely without a rope. You have to propel. And that was like a first time thing for me, and I do have definitely some fears that were coming up yesterday around heights and my perception and equilibrium and being in a new place for the first time. It was interesting what came up for me yesterday. It was a cool piece of work for me in terms of, I think, kind of facing some of my fears and trauma. It was interesting how it came up and maneuvering through that and how life will affect you.
I think I could do it. It's just a matter of at what pace, at what time of year, and with whom. I can do anything if I set my mind to it.
1000%. And I fully believe that that your body is fully capable of doing that hike. I do not doubt your body being capable of doing that hike. It's your mind.
See, the opposite. I would think, no, I know 100% my mind can do the hike. I don't know if my body can do the hike. That's my thing. My mind thinks I can do anything. It's my body that I've been tied to here on Earth that restricts me. Or, actually, you know what? It doesn't. It only restricts me as much as my mind thinks.
Exactly. And then the feelings that come up as you're doing it.
I would like to do it. Okay, I'm going to set that as an intention. You all hear me. You all hear me in King Pollys World, okay? That is an intention I'm setting maybe for this upcoming year at some point. And if I don't get to it this year, maybe next.
I'd like to see it happen.
But that's how I plan things. If not this year, then perhaps next. But I would like to. We played tennis the other day.
And it's a good hike out, too, because you're kind of having to hike out, and it's kind of like a wash. So sometimes, like, I don't know if you've experienced, like, hiking, like an element of a distance on top of a wash foundation. So it's kind of, it can be kind of tiresome. It's not like you're walking on top of a hard foundation. So that kind of also adds to the hike, the element of the hike.
I think if I make a conscious effort to start doing physical things, again, like, because I've just taken the last few years literally for my heart healing and my mind. And before that, it was my body. I was from 2014, 2015, 2016. It was heavily focused on healing my body. And so now I feel like I'm at a point where the two marry within me. And I'm unstoppable.
I'd like to see you do it. I think you could do it, but it was a tough hike. Like, I was definitely.
That's the thing.
It was a good hike.
I just like going slow.
And two, I'm setting the stage to where, like, again, I don't want you to show up. I'd rather you show up and be prepared for something really tough, and you go, wow, that was easier than I thought, then you be done and go, you mother. And because the last part's on the way out.
We learned that the hard way. You learned that the hard way early on in our relationship by telling me it was an easy hike, and then.
Well, too, and you've also explained that
it wasn't an easy hike.
Well, you've shared a story where people had to carry you down from trails that you started, and by no means do I have any intention of carrying you in or out of any trail.
Right? And
Not
that
gonna
was the
happen.
thing. When I met you, I was like, what do you mean you won't carry me down a mountain? What do you mean? What if I get tired? And you're like, you need to figure it out.
If you're not dying or hurt, I'm not gonna strain to carry you down the
This
mountain.
is a foreign thing to me. Okay. Guess I won't go on many hikes with you. I'm not guaranteed a carry down. I can't guarantee you a hike.
That was a sad thing. I had to grieve. That you telling me that, and that was an element of our dynamic of our relationship. That you weren't this aggressive hiker that I think at some level I fantasized my wife being with me, like that I would end up, that God would pair me up with some outdoor adventurer, like he would have to, like why, how else could he not?
And then strolls in me.
Yeah, God's funny.
There's no part of me that is into hardcore physical activity. But
it's been nice for you to open your mind.
Being outside. I love laying outside. I love breathing outside. I love seeing outside. In a perfect world, I would levitate and I would be able to go anywhere.
You want me to tell you one of the nice things about that hike that I observed?
Yes, please.
Because it was so tough, there was very little trash on the trail. I don't know if the trail's well kept up and whatever, but there's one thing that I observed is it was...
Isn't that's kind of interesting because it's the same for life.
Yep.
Like the harder path you take in life, the less trash you're going to encounter.
Yeah.
At least that's what's happened to my life. Very little trash in my view anymore. So we talked about a lot of different topics that we could talk about today. So many.
This is your show. You steer the ship.
I know. Okay? I know.
I'm just trying to show it.
I know.
Be of service.
But it's December. And I have to say it's my favorite time of year because it's Sagittarius season. It is the time that I am the happiest. The world is lit up. Why are you smiling like that?
It is November 25th, and you're saying it's December.
Because this comes out in December.
Oh, okay.
Oh my gosh, this guy doesn't know how it works. Are you even in the camera shot, man? Like, what are you doing over there?
Wow. Mm-hmm. Getting scolded. That's what I'm doing over here.
Wow. Now you guys really see how
we operate. How we truly operate.
Jeez Louise. And with it being December and so close to the holidays, you really distracted me with that mic stuff. What are you doing now? He's flipping me off. If you're listening to this and not seeing it, I do recommend you watch on YouTube too, because you might catch a few middle fingers. But with it being the holidays, right? And that time of year where the focus seems to be so much on family. And this year really recognizing how many people don't have family or have like a healthy family to spend time with. It really feels like there's a division within the houses of today that we're all having to face. So I just want to send love to everybody out there who's going through that, who's going through some form of division and being faced with everything you thought sort of being changed into something new and having to face what life is now and what family is and what the holidays mean. And as hard as it is, it does feel like it's full of opportunity to really start to grow and plant something that you want. You know, starting new rituals and new traditions and really connecting to God from within, which I think is what this time of year really is about anyways, is that connection and that bridge. And we're just forced to find it now individually in order to collectively be able to come together. And so I wanted to share that. Like, I love you all, and my heart's really with you through December.
Yeah, holidays are always interesting. I think it will remind you of your childhood. And so whatever your childhood is or was, or and in I think life's natural rhythm is change. And so some element of, whatever it was to whatever it is now, there is an element of grief, even, for whatever reason. So in December, the shift in climate, depending on where you live, it's interesting. It's interesting the changes in season and what change will bring up. And when, it's always interesting when you have to sit still for 2 minutes, what are the dominating thoughts? When you have to sit in December, when you have to sit and think about, what am I going to do for these national holidays, that everybody at some level has always had to kind of do. And it's always interesting as you grow and develop and you start to get into relationships and you become a couple with someone, you take on new traditions, you take on new elements. And then when there's children involved, then there becomes a negotiation of, who's going to get Thanksgiving, who's going to get Christmas, and then do you try to squeeze in both? And then, there's been times where, I've done, 2, 3, sometimes maybe even 4 houses in one day for certain holidays. And it's like, by the end of it, it's like, there was a certain point where, I definitely made some shifts because I wasn't enjoying it. It wasn't joyful. It was stressful and painful, and where I was standing at the time, I just remember just going like, where's the heart? And my whole life, that's where I feel like I've always kind of gravitated and been some element of my filter is, is this coming from my mind or is this coming from the heart? Are these ideas and concepts, is this something from the mind, something the mind created, or is this something from the heart, something the heart created? And really trying to just filter things between that filter. And, it's been sad for me, I love the holidays. I love being with family. I love being together, but, I don't want to be together if it's painful and stressful and we're pretending, and then no one wants to talk about whatever needs to be talked about. So, and then it kind of gets pushed around the rug, and then everybody's still, thinking about last holidays or whatever. I don't know. It's interesting. It's an interesting dynamic, interesting time, and it feels like this element of pretending like nothing's wrong when something's wrong is no longer a adequate solution, and it has ran its course, and it's clear that it's not a sustainable solution, and eventually we're going to have to talk about it or it just gets passed down.
You really just said it. Like the joy, right? That's what's kind of been missing from life, and we're waking up to it. Like, wait, I don't have to just do this because this is what I've always done. I don't have to just do this because this is what I was told or what was done before me. It really becomes about free will, and it becomes about like, okay, are we willing to talk about it and then get the option of this relationship renewing and getting a rebirth and starting in a new way? Or like, are we unable to shift? Are we so stuck in our ego's perception and role and who you are and who I am and what this is that we can't come to a new idea of what the holidays mean? I mean, it's like, it's gnarly. It's gnarly. It's gnarly that now, too, just so many families are waking up, like on TikTok. The amount of people I see on TikTok, young adults who are completely aware of their parents' bullshit or what's been passed down to them is huge.
I think it's just simply there's this interesting thing that's happening right now between the element of like this narrative that we were all told, and at some level, at some point, like a lot of us believed, I think, and now it's like this element of it's just not believable, you know, just and then I think people starting to pause, and we're starting to ask questions like, what is it that we're actually celebrating? And we have access and to these tools and to these elements of information, and I think it's just like anything, we're expanding, so as we're gaining information, we're gaining new elements of truth, but there's also elements of lies and deceptions also that plague that pool of information. There's a lot of information. I think something I heard or came across, but some element of that, like there's the amount of information that comes out now in 2 weeks was literally the same amount of information that as a whole, like new information that came out like up until our whole lifetime, up until like 150 years ago.
Wow.
Yeah,
wow.
It's pretty interesting to think about.
And that reminds me of that thing I saw the other day that was like, we weren't made to be the receiver of all of this information. This element of, okay, now comes the time where we sort of sit in our heart, and that's how we decipher what's real, right? Because how else will you? You'll be consumed with confusion and it'll be chaos. But if you pay attention and sort of focus and get rid of all this other stuff that actually doesn't add to your life, you're free. Like you're on your way to freedom.
Yeah.
It's hard for me because I've always loved learning. I've always sought the truth. I want to get to the core, like what's going on here. And so it's like, okay, once you do that, you have to remember, all right, I've gotten to the core now. So now's the exhale.
Yes. Well, I keep grabbing onto something like in the middle of your conversation, and when you finish, I lose it. But there's something really there in terms of, I know what it is. It's the element of having to need an answer. That really is a game changer when you can really kind of get down to the principle that there is no one answer for the present moment, and letting go of this idea that there is an answer. Again, I think school systems would change revolutionary, and we would see such a shift in the energy and the dynamic if we just went from asking the classroom, what is your answer versus what is the answer? And if we really sit still and look at like some of the damages that are done to, I think, children, innocent, pure children, when they're expected to know the answer. And if you really look at what we're answering and the questions that are being asked and the answers that are being given, and to really look at it, that there is multiple answers that actually do apply, and there's multiple truths. And that really what's happening is what I see children are literally being like suppressed to feel safe, to honor their authentic selves. And for them to try to discover what is it that's authentically coming through their inner being with the question at hand. Because I don't know, man, you start tapping into, your spiritual being and a relationship with a higher power, and, you start expanding your mind and reading a Bible, or depending on where you go, and I don't know, you start getting information and you start receiving things that are beyond you. You start getting answers and getting intuition or inspiration and ideas and concepts and answers to things that you really shouldn't have had in the first place. It's interesting.
Like revelation. That's what I like to call it. This element of it's revealed not through the mind. It bypasses my mind completely. And it just shows up like in my heart. And it's like, wow. And it's, you can always tell because it's love. Like it's not judgment. It's not fear. It's love. And like this ancient, like it has this ancient pulse to it of just like, whoa, how did I just receive this almost like invisible hug?
Invisible hug.
That's
Wow.
what it feels like for me.
I have a story coming up. What's coming up for me right now is probably, I think it was like 6 to 9 months after my divorce, and I was just super heavy with grief, but yet I felt like I had clarity that this was clearly the best thing for me and the best thing for the children and the best thing for my now ex-partner, ex-wife. But I still left after I like dropped the kids off with this huge amount of regret and grief, and I remember I couldn't really maintain, so I was like pulled into a neighborhood, and I prayed, and I just asked, God, I was like, God, like, why am I in so much pain? Like, I feel like this is the best thing. I feel like you're guiding me this way. Like, why do I continue to have so much pain in my heart? And like, I literally just sat still for a couple seconds, and I heard, you need 2 buckets, one for the reality of the relationship that you're leaving, and one for the fantasy. And then what I was shown was that in this divorce, not only was I having to divorce myself from that marriage, but I was also having to divorce myself from the fantasy that I had established that my marriage would be. And so like all of a sudden I just got this like this wisdom of, hey, this is what you need to work on, this is your problem, this is what you need to focus. And it was like, I mean, that nugget that came from somewhere like literally helped me process, and literally I found so much peace over the next few weeks, because every time something that would come up that was painful in regards to that relationship, I now had 2 buckets to filter that pain through versus one that didn't make sense for the pain. It didn't belong in that bucket. It wasn't that bucket's pain.
I love that story, baby, because it is so true. I mean, when you were sharing that, I had a flash of all the times in my life where literally I was just so full of pain, but yet knowing what was happening was what needed to happen. And that it was so much grief around the fantasy of what I thought my life would be and what I thought I was, who I thought I was.
I had a thought this morning of just the reality of that I'm a good half-time parent. I am not a good full-time parent. And that it was a blessing that I kind of was put in a position to where I was only a parent to my children half of the week from when they were small. Like my daughter was 2 and my son was like 5 or 6 when we got divorced. And so I've been, a 50% parent since then. And like that allowed me to like, okay, let me focus on these kids for, 3 to 4 days a week. And then I got 3 to 4 days to not have to focus on them. Like I had every week, I had 3 to 4 days to reset, to recharge, or to focus on other activities. And, I've seen, other friends and some single parents, and just to be a full-time parent is no joke. Like people have always looked at me like, oh, you're such a great dad and you handle the kids so well. And I'm like, a lot of it is because of God's grace, and I'm only have to do it half the week. Like it would not look this good if I had to do it 7 days a week, 365. I promise you that. The whole reason of why my perspective of a dad might look good is a lot of it has to do, I only had to do it half of the week.
Well, I mean, I know for me that was huge. Like in entering our family, that it was just this known, carved out, Monday through Thursday scenario of like, wow, I can show up fully. I can show up fully.
And how important and how much did you need that Friday and Saturday?
Well,
to just not...
I needed to, I had to work. B, I needed the space to just be me. And at times it felt like I couldn't, right? All of a sudden having this role as stepmom. There was a lot I didn't know how to do. And so those few days of reset, well, and for us, like they just helped so much. It made me realize how much we really do need a village, and how much the mothers of the world like, how is anybody doing this? Like, how is any child being actually raised? Like, how are we doing this? How is the world like this right now? Like, how? Like, no wonder we're all just like...
Yeah. When I got divorced, when I was going through the death and the divorce and some things that I had to process, that grief, like when you just said that, well, the way my schedule was before we got together is Thursday morning when I would drop those kids off at school. Like once I dropped them off at school Thursday morning, it was like I clocked out, and literally Thursday for a good year, because of my pain and my grief, because of all the loss I was going through, I had to dedicate just to myself. Like that was Thursday was Sean Day. Like I had to give it to myself, and as soon as I dropped the kids off, I literally would just sit still and kind of, what do you need? What do you want? And I mean, it was like a really gentle, I didn't have a lot of money, so it wasn't like shopping or any things. It was like a lot of nature. It was a lot of driving to Red Rock. I mean, I drove Kyle Canyon in Red Rock at least once a week. And I needed that release. I needed to get out of the city. I needed music. I needed, some healing podcasts. I needed to get some element of some healing positive information, and then nature. And then there's that hike. There's that release of that energy. And then that was the only time that I was actually able to meditate at that point in my life, was after at least a 30-minute hike. Because if I didn't have at least a 30-minute hike, I could not sit still for 5 minutes. It was impossible for me.
Well, I couldn't if I didn't do yoga. I had to do yoga. I had to do like a full hour of stretching, breathing yoga in order to sit. Because, I mean, well, that's it. The monkey mind, the body, like it's stiff, it's tired, it needs to move, there's all these things that have to happen to even get to a place where then I have some chance of my mind finding...
I don't think if it wasn't for the
calm.
bathtub, I don't know if I'd have got through the last like 10, 15 years. Like there was an element of, I struggled so hard to acquire the skill of meditation, and then it was like I got back into like, just someone suggested a bath, and I was like, wow, I sat still for more than 5-10 minutes. It was like, whoa.
And I've really noticed I don't like being silent and still with nothing. I had forgotten that because I had gotten so good, done all this work to find that place of being okay with just being still and alone. And since then, I've, had a fire lit in me. I found my purpose. I've grown. I've had I found what love is, all these things. I found interests, I have my music I love. So there's this element of, I almost don't like turning all of that off to enter that stillness again. It's funny. It's really funny, right? And my mind comes up with all these excuses because, like, our bathtub's so small. I can't get my hair wet. I wish I had a bath pillow. It's cold.
It's real interesting when you can gain some awareness of who it is you're actually dealing with within yourself, and the parts of you that like resist like what is good for you.
And that's the thing too, though, is like, I guess there's part of me that feels like, oh no, you're good.
Both are true.
Yeah, both are true. Oh, babe, I love you so much.
We did it. We were able to sit down and get rolling, get through our little quirks and kinks.
It feels much, third time's a charm, I always say. Third time's a charm.
There's just a lot. I think there's just a lot to being a human being. There is just so much, like, there's so much that goes into just showing up.
Literally.
Just being able to show up.
Showing up is, you deserve a medal every time you just show up. That should be a thing, that, oh my God, I would love to wouldn't that be funny to get medals made? And whenever I have a guest, they get a mail that says, thanks for showing up. You showed up today.
You showed up.
All right, you want to do a few top fives?
I don't know. You got like a little bit of time. It's your show. How you want to finish it out?
Well, that's why I said, do you want to do a few top fives? That's how I'd like to finish the show.
There it is.
I already did my shout out. You did your shout out. We do our top fives, and then we do our closing statements.
Okay.
Does that sound good to you?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right, you want to pick it randomly? Or you want
I'm going to pick two, and I'll pick the top one. Ooh, top 5 life goals, top 5 books.
Whoa. Those aren't heavy duty at all or anything.
Yeah, right? I think,
pick one.
Top 5 books. Right now, currently, I would have to say The Shack, Conversations with God, the Bible, Change Your Thoughts, Change Your Life. Dr. Wayne Dyer goes through the 81 verses of the Tao, and Illusions.
Wow.
Who was the author of the book Illusions? You just bought it.
Richard Bach.
That book is so good.
I can't recommend that book enough. That's definitely one of mine.
Top
Wow,
5
those
books.
were beautiful, babe. Those were really great. Okay. Wow. It's fun being on the spot. I like being on the spot.
You like attention.
Yes, I do. I do like attention. I do. But I also don't. But right now I do.
Paradox.
There's a camera on and a mic here. You're gosh darn right I do. When I'm walking the dogs, I don't like attention. When I'm grocery shopping, I don't like attention. When I'm eating, I don't like attention.
When your husband's in the middle of a project, you want attention.
I want attention. All right, top 5 books. Oh my gosh. Okay.
Quick.
I know. Illusions, Richard Bach. I had a friend, Paul, who bought it for me when I was 21, and it made me go, holy shit. Just bought it for our daughter for Christmas. I'm excited for that. Okay. Illusions, Richard Bach. Also, if you read that, you should read Jonathan Livingston Seagull, also by Richard Bach. That's another really good one. It's not on my top. The Giver. The Giver by Lois Lowry will forever be one of my favorite books. I read it in elementary school only because there was 2 copies, and me and my best friend wanted to get the same book. That's the only reason, because there was an old man on the cover. I would have never gotten it because I judged books by their cover. And so I learned a lot of valuable lessons. I think it was 4th grade. The Giver. It's about living in this black and white world, and you're given a glimpse of color, of what life could be, of this ancient way of being that you have to fight for, you have to move towards, you have to go to. The Giver. Oh. A Course in Miracles. For sure. I'll just cry talking about it. It's like when I found that book, I was like, oh my God, this is like my dream come true. Like a textbook on spirituality. Come on. And I've never gotten through it. Like I'm still in it. Like that was you. I got that from you. That was so you. Okay. That's 3. The Fountainhead. Ayn Rand. Totally heavy, crazy. I bet if I were to read it now, I would have a totally different outlook on it. But it was just a powerful, powerful book. And I love Ayn Rand, and I love that a woman wrote that, and I was like, it was just such a crazy book. And then number 5. Number 5. Well, a few books come into my head at the same time. Okay? Are you still with me? Are you falling asleep? I would say Conversations with God, Ishmael, The Four Agreements, The Tao of Pooh.
There's a lot
the
of
Bible.
good books.
So I'll keep going. I'll just keep going if you let me.
So we'll end it like that.
All right, that was beautiful, baby. We've successfully made it through episode 3. And now it's time for our closing statements.
You should almost create some music to go.
I know, in my head,
I was almost thinking I
need something
like some Mr. Rogers, like kind of
for closing statements.
Something that can kind of be
with birds chirping and like
some nature stuff. Maybe it could just be like a nature thing, like you're stepping outside, like you're about to step outside.
Closing statements.
Like we're gonna step outside and start walking our journey.
We're getting ready to say goodbye to all of you
in motion
and to each other until we meet again. We covered a lot of things today.
Ooh, I just had a good closing thing just come to me.
After you.
I feel like my closing statement will be, I've had a lot of books that I started that I got a lot of wisdom out of and a lot of information out of that I never finished. And not to judge yourself, to think that you actually have to, like, there's so many books that we have that we haven't completed. And like, if I could go back and say anything to my younger self, it would be like do not judge yourself so harshly, and just, you know, if it's speaking to you, let it speak to you. If it stops, then it stops. Like, it's okay. It's so okay. Like, sometimes you'll pick up a book and literally the whole thing that you needed to hear was literally in that first page, and there was no reason for you to continue reading. And sometimes I've read books and going like, it didn't hit me till the end. So, and I didn't start reading until I was in my late 20s, early 30s. The Shack was the first book I picked up and actually like had interest and joy in reading. Before then, it was always by force. And I've always struggled to comprehend any heavy books alone. I've always needed some form of a study guide, the audiobook, or some form of a study group. I rarely. Now I'm a little bit better because I've gotten my mind and I think my perspective and I'm a little bit more expanded and grown. But at first, you know, in my 20s and 30s, when I first started reading some books, like I had to get in some book clubs. I think see if there were some friends that want to read some books together. And it sounds cheesy, but I don't know, man. Sometimes I've found it feels really good and can be super cool to be cheesy.
I love that you're cheesy because I really have always tried to stay away from cheese. Like, I have only ever read books alone. I've only wanted to read books alone. I wanted to hurry up and read them alone. But again, a lot of that was because I had to.
Yeah, you're not someone I would seek to be a part of my book club. You're not one of my first people I would seek out.
You wish I was in your book club. You wish. I'd explain it all to you. Get out of here. You don't want to be in my book club. Why are you afraid I'll bite the other people that are in it?
Or me. I'm not reading fast enough for you.
Yeah. And you know what? I fully accept that. I see that about myself now. I was always like that. I was all the way on this page, you know?
You have both suits. I think you just need to recognize which suit you're wearing for that subject. Some subjects you can be super slow, kind, and patient with. You have all the patience in the world, and some you don't. And I'm the same way. There's certain topics I have no interest in teaching or explaining or sitting around or even being involved in the conversation because it's just annoying and painful for me, and I won't do it. And then there's other conversations and topics that I can sit in. I can let you just exhaust all of your ridiculous energy that you think you have about the topic, and then patiently wait. And then there's some where I don't have more than 5 seconds, and I'm like, excuse me, but I gotta go. And that's a new skill that I've just learned in my late 30s, early 40s, that I can do that.
Beautiful. I thought of another book.
You've already
Return to
exhausted
Love.
your top 5. You can't see it.
Return to Love, Marianne Williamson. Wild is another one I really... The Yoga Sutras.
It said top 5, not top 50.
Well, thank you, babe. That was a beautiful closing statement and a great reminder because it's true. I, growing up, was obsessive with books. I mean, obsessive because it was my escape. We didn't have smartphones, so I had to escape in whatever way necessary. And now, as I got older, I thought, oh no, I don't like finish books like I did. I still will once in a while, depending on the book. But it's got to be nonfiction. I can't read make-believe anymore. I can't do it. I just can't do it.
I hear you.
But that used to be all I could read. That was the only thing I wanted to read before.
I hear you.
All right. He hears me. He hears me. Can I just say that's a great thing to say if you're in a marriage? I hear you. I hear you. I hear you. Thank you. I hear you.
I hear your perspective.
Mm-hmm. I hear you, and I honor it. And you know what? I see that there is truth in it.
I will consider your delusion for the next 30 seconds, and then I'm going to completely release it.
Okay. All right. Time for my closing statement. Cue the sound. All right. My closing statement is this. I really just want to exude my gratitude to you if you're listening or watching this. I would like to smother you in glitter, gratitude, and joy. I would like to cook you in a sea of love and bake you in a pie of goodness.
Well, I want some of that.
You too. You're here. I'll do it. I'll make you into a pie of goodness when we're done here.
I want that first part. You said something about being smothered in glitter and joy and
gratitude.
And whipped cream is what I heard, I thought.
Okay.
All right, well, moving on.
I really am so grateful for all of you. I've come to know so many amazing people from King Pollys World, and I'm eternally grateful. And I hope to just be able to give some element of joy to your day. I know how much I love being able to listen to the things that bring me joy and feel connection and almost get a window in to somebody else's real world or life. And that's why I'm really grateful and excited to share our little window of life. It means a lot that you would listen to this. It really does. I appreciate it. And we love you.
Peace.
That's my closing statement. We did it. Thank you all. We'll be back next week. Maybe,
I don't know.
We don't know. We don't know what the future holds.
I don't know what's happening anymore. I'm done.
We don't pretend that we know.
I know nothing.
We know nothing. But hopefully we'll see you again.
Do nothing, yet nothing gets left undone.
Mm-hmm. Peace and love. Oh, let me play the outro. You ready?
You have an outro?
What's the same as the intro?
Oh, yeah, play it up.